Okay, question. Do you struggle, battle with calling out throughout your lessons? If you do, you're seriously not alone. It was by far the most common question landing in my DMs. How do you deal with calling out? Don't assume, though, that calling out is a sign of abject disrespect for you. What it tends to be is simply a symptom of inconsistencies on your part, that you are in fact sending mixed messages throughout the lesson because you are responding to calling out. Whether that be positively or negatively, it doesn't matter. If you're responding to it, you're actually inadvertently rewarding it. Now, reducing calling out very often comes down to three things. 1, prevention is better than cure. 2, reinforce what you want, deal with but don't feed what you don't. And 3, reward and retrain. So, number 1, prevention is better than cure. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean be consistent. Don't give mixed messages. Every single time you ask anything of your class, tell them how to respond to you. It isn't enough to say at the beginning of the lesson, don't forget folks, put your hands up. It isn't enough. You have to tell them every single time you ask a question how you want them to answer it. So like this, hands up, who would like to share their answer? Or hands down, I'm going to go to you by name. It is actually important that you mix it up a little bit with hands down, I'm going to go to you by name, because that way you avoid over-reliance on 1 or 2 individuals and disengaging the rest of the class. So make sure, your golden rule then, make sure you always stipulate exactly how you want them to answer you every single time you ask a question. When I'm observing, I notice that the trigger for calling out is very often a teacher forgetting to tell the class how to answer. Number 2, reinforce and reward exactly what you want to see. So that means when you see a hand up, you respond to it quickly and reward it with your body language and voice. For example, yeah, Sasha, you've got your hand up. If you do get calling out, it's important that you deal with it without feeding it. So that means you lower your voice, you use statements rather than questions, and you use a neutral voice. So for example, don't call out, please. Yeah, Sasha, you've got your hand up. Ideally, you want to juxtapose that sort of flattened, almost dismissive response with your total engagement with the person who's doing what you want. Now, if you get repeated calling out, it's important that you don't ignore it. You have to deal with it, but you want to do it quickly, timely, and without overreacting. You don't want to reward it accidentally by responding with your full body turning, a raised voice, and engagement with questions. You need to, I suggest, you need to use championing. That's where you use the needs of the group and the rights of the class as your rationale. So for example, don't call out. Don't disrespect everyone else who's waiting patiently with their hands up. Sasha, you've got your hand up. So you use that contrast again, but you make it very clear it's about the needs of the group. If you do get repeated calling out, you've got no choice but to escalate your responses proportionately. I would use a choice statement and don't repeat a warning. So for example, if you choose to continue to call out, you're choosing to go to remove. Now you've got to make that age appropriate, obviously, if you're in primary or secondary. The most important thing to remember is that you respond proportionately. You don't feed it by giving it full-blown attention, but you deal with it swiftly, you deal with it discreetly, you deal with it with a choice so that they're choosing their own consequence, and you protect the rights of everyone else in the room. You're also reinforcing and highlighting your consistency with what you've asked of them, that you require them to put your hand up. It's really important that every time somebody breaks your rule, you reinforce it by re-stipulating what your code is, that yes, you can get response from me, but it has to be on my terms. So you reinforce what you want. Hands up if you want to make a comment. Okay, hands down, I'm going to go to you by name. Who can remember? Hands up. Who can remember what? You're just incredibly consistent. And finally, number 3, retraining and rewarding. What exactly does that involve? Well, if you've had to reprimand someone and give them a rule reminder, don't call out, please. Closing your body language down, giving that statement, championing the rights and the needs of your class. it's just as important that you swiftly and timely respond and reward them when they are doing exactly what you want, when they are complying. They have to build trust in you. They have to believe that they will get your attention if they play by your rules. So that you're taking the attention off them when they're calling out. Don't call out, please, but you give that attention straight back when they play by your rules. Yeah, David, you've got your hand up. It's really important that you reward a student when they follow your directions and you take away your attention when they don't. Remember that analogy I often use in my sessions about puppy training. How quickly would you teach a puppy to sit if you never rewarded them or you didn't reward them consistently when they actually achieved it on your command? They probably wouldn't. If you didn't give them that little bit of chicken every time they sat on command, it would take you twice as long, if ever, to train them to do what you wanted. So it's just as important when you're in a class to stick by the rules you stipulated, to be consistent with your demands, your hands up and your hands down, and that you do reward individuals by going to them when they put the hand up, by being responsive to them when they comply with what you've asked them to do. Good luck with it and let me know how you get on.